Welcome to the Anthro Art Podcast, a space of anthropological insight connected to real-life situations. Here we explore topics of social inequality and inclusion, sustainability, and the social self. We aim to bring a more nuanced understanding of our world and its challenges, but also inspiration and ideas on how to solve them together. We hope you enjoy it.
Pests in Town. Cockroaches in the Urban Imaginary. A text written by Ruxandra Paduraru. Read by Katia Pascariu. Although cockroaches are part of nature, they are a nature that I don't like to have in my apartment. They are a nature I dislike. I don't think a person has cockroaches in their house and is happy with them. Everyone wants to get rid of them as soon as possible. I used a lot of insecticides, but they did not disappear, and we almost got poisoned in the apartment. Woman respondent, 21 years old. In 2008, the United Nations declared that the world's population has become predominantly urban for the first time. Living in cities and increasing housing density has meant exposure to microbes, viruses, and the proliferation of animals attracted to human waste. But our ideal metropolis is orderly and sanitized, with nature subdued and compartmentalized. Gerald Mack's concept of imaginative geographies suggests that in modern Western society, people construct firm boundaries between nature and culture. Cities are often associated with nature being carefully controlled. While modern urban planning policies focus on the need for green spaces in cities, these are usually controlled environments that do not encroach on private spaces with undesired sights, sounds, smells, or non-human actors. However, nature is about more than just patches of greenery and trees to provide shade. It encompasses ecosystems that may include elements that are often considered disruptive. How much of what is considered undesirable in urban environments is a cultural perception, and how much is a biological response to a real threat? The aspirational asepsis in towns is not new. Since the mid-19th century, disgust and anxiety about the dirt and smell of the urban environment had become a central feature of middle-class identity in the country's big cities. The modern constitution shows our Western predilection to keep separate, or culturally purify, the human and the non-human. In other words, there are relatively standardized views of what kind of animal belongs in what space. But no matter how hard we try to organize and structure nature, there are certain aspects we cannot control. Good animals versus bad animals. Who decides? In the introduction to his 2012 volume Animal Cities, Beastly Urban Histories, historian Peter Atkins notes that urban animals have generally been seen as belonging to one of four categories. Useful animals, for traction or meat, those that can be appreciated, such as garden songbirds, those that are desirable, for example, pets, and finally, what he describes as species that have transgressed, such as rats, cockroaches, and pigeons, and are considered vermin because they have no place in the city. Also, Arluck and Saunders describe the sociozoological scale that suggests that humans rank animals according to how well they fit in and play the roles that are expected to play in society. So-called good animals, such as pets and farm animals, fit in because they benefit humans and are therefore accorded a high moral status. Those labeled bad do not fit in, can be literally out of place, contradict ideas of goodness, and have no productive or beneficial qualities. The latter is often denigrated and associated with harmful characteristics that may or may not be objectively accurate. Vermin are not categorized based on their species, but rather by their interaction with humans, human culture, infrastructure, and resources. They are creatures that inhabit human-made settings, often living near humans without human approval or intention. Unlike pets, they do not provide companionship or affection. Additionally, vermin are animals that either consume or spoil human food without offering any beneficial services in return. Tora Holmberg describes in Urban Animals Crowding in Zoocities that urban animals are often subject to the complaint. They transgress geographical, legal, and cultural order systems as they roam the city in ways frequently perceived as uncontrolled. But they are also objects of care, conservation practices, and biopolitical interventions. She asks, then, what are the more than human life experiences in a city? What does it mean to consider spatial formations and urban politics from the perspective of human-animal relations? An anthropological inquiry into cockroaches in cities. The questions mentioned above are the focus of my doctoral research. I am studying the infrastructure that is associated with the presence of cockroaches in cities, including the legal and juridical issues that regulate when and how cockroaches should be controlled, the use of chemical substances, the classist or gendered discourses surrounding cockroaches, the effects of cockroach infestation on our relationship with others, both with those we live with and our neighbors, the experiences of those who work in pest control, and the cultural classification of pests versus non-pest animals. I am looking at urban ecologies and infrastructures as critical zones, spaces where various natural, biological, and technological forces interact in a fragile and dynamic way with the capacity to trigger significant changes in the structure and stability of systems. My thesis is based on ethnographic research that started in 2022. I have used participatory and non-participatory observation, interviews, informal in situ discussions, and analysis of documents such as urban plans, zonal pest regulation laws, and archive documents. In this article, I will focus on the narratives of people who have encountered cockroaches in Bucharest and their personal experiences living with them in their apartments. Through this research, I aim to understand how our perception of what is natural and our disgust and other emotions toward it are also shaped by our cultural beliefs and practices. At first glance, we're tempted to say that the distaste for cockroaches comes only along evolutionary lines. But for example, black cockroaches have not been universally considered pests. Susanna Marjanic describes that cockroaches, particularly the black ones, were respected in Russian ethno-tradition, being seen almost as pets that bring happiness and prosperity to a household. They are not to be exterminated because they are thought to bring wealth. Moreover, when moving into a new house, they too were moved and fed, especially for big holidays, believing that the greater the number of black cockroaches, the better one's livestock would breed. Moreover, the Hutuls, Ukraine, believe that cockroaches must not be killed because their brothers, cockroaches, will take revenge on the person who insulted them, the Hutuls, and fall into their meal. On the other hand, they were treated merely as pests in Croatian ethno-tradition, as is the case today. Also, not everybody is disgusted by cockroaches, even in a disgust-dominated culture. There are rules of feeling towards cockroaches, but there is also emotional deviance from the norm. Children might play with them, other people might tolerate them. Out of over 4,000 species that enter our households, only 1% of cockroach species cause fear and loathing in humans. My research focuses on kitchen and sewage cockroaches, insects most Romanians perceive as filthy, useless to the ecosystem, and disruptive to our well-being. They are animals out of place, a living pollution in the sense of Mary Douglas, as she explores the cultural significance of purity and pollution and posits that the concept of dirt, when interpreted as matter out of place, signifies the presence and violation of an established structure or system. In this particular case, anything that is connected to creeping the cockroaches is placed in the context of possible danger to the human species. They, the cockroaches, are some very fast enemies who no one likes, disgust me very much, and ruin my experience of living in a block and my experience of living in Bucharest. I recall my mother struggling with them when I was a child, which created a chaotic environment in our home. Since then, I have developed an intense aversion to bugs. My little daughter, on the other hand, would chase after cockroaches to catch and play with them, much to my frustration. Woman, 41 years old. I chose to focus specifically on two types of cockroaches: kitchen and sewer cockroaches. While spiders and other insects may be perceived as cute or harmless in interviews, most people generally see kitchen and sewer cockroaches as disgusting. There are also cockroaches that I don't dislike. It's that bug that if you kill it smells terrible. To me, they seem friendly and even nice, harmless. If I see them, I don't have that impulse to run away or kill them, but I save them whenever I can. Then there are the spiders with very long legs and tiny bodies. I don't necessarily have a bad thing with those either, but with kitchen cockroaches, I cannot even look at them. A woman, 30 years old. The cockroaches I refer to might be a reservoir and mechanical vector of foodborne pathogens. They can carry diseases on their legs. Cockroaches, specifically Blatella germanica and Periplaneta americana, carry disease-causing organisms, typically those causing gastroenteritis. Yet determining their exact role as vectors is challenging, since many of the pathogens they carry can also spread through alternative means. But most importantly, these pests create discomfort or even nausea when they transgress the boundary between civilization and nature by entering sidewalks and homes, the innermost sanctum of human culture. Private space isn't private anymore because of the bug's ability to spread. In some ways, cockroaches can be perceived as maintaining connections between neighbors. Cockroaches, in the context of the block of flats, have developed a new side to me and a new hatred for neighbors. They throw all the crap out of the window and it ends up on my windowsill. It would have bothered me anyway, but it annoys me to the point of exasperation that because of their behavior, I get cockroaches. A woman, 23 years old. I had to wait for my neighbor to die so we could get rid of cockroaches. Putting it this way is fierce, but it was a nightmare. Man, 24 years old. Personal fears and traumas related to cockroaches are also associated with the appearance of cockroaches in different poses in cartoons. Many respondents remember depictions of cockroaches in movies or cartoons where the cockroach was always the villain. Sometimes this also influences how the fear of killing them sets in. For example, some people say that they don't want to kill them because more cockroaches will come and take revenge, or that sometimes it seems that a bigger one will appear instead of a killed cockroach. However, besides perceptions and thoughts, the most egregious statements in the discussion relate to behavioral changes that take root and alter over long periods. For example, a respondent may not do the dishes from anywhere, not just from home, if more than 3-4 dishes get dirty, or if more than 10 minutes pass since they were left in the sink. When he had cockroaches in his apartment, it was common to find them in the kitchen sink. I can't wash them. I'm scared because I've been there. I'm frightened they're going to come out of there and climb on me. Another respondent confessed that she could not sleep at night because she feared cockroaches would appear in her room. She always left the lights on in the house and felt that she had cockroaches on her, although she had only seen 2 cockroaches in the apartment once. Cockroaches can also mediate social relations and reveal how we relate to others. The elderly or those in precarious situations are often blamed for the appearance of cockroaches, as it is assumed that they cannot maintain a hygienic apartment. Having cockroaches in one's apartment is stigmatized and feels like an insult to one's hygiene management. Women in particular feel the need to emphasize the care they take of their home even if they have cockroaches. Something I didn't often encounter in interviews with men unless they were in charge of cleaning the house. One of the reasons being our culture's gendered division of cleaning labor. People frequently try to hide that they have cockroaches or have seen them in another apartment because having them in the home is often perceived as embarrassing, even stigmatizing. I first saw cockroaches in the bathroom at this person's house. I didn't know if I should say anything because he would have known about them. Still, there were so many that I didn't know if he was doing anything about them, and I chose to wash my hands quietly, shut up, and continue our conversation there. Woman, 20 years old. Chemical warfare. As I emphasized before, in most of my interviews, people talk about cockroaches as triggers of a disgusting, sometimes traumatizing experience. Disgust can lead to disproportionate reactions. It often seeks to remove or eradicate the appalling source of threat. I'll do anything to make them disappear. I don't care how harmful it is. I can't live to see cockroaches crawling around my apartment every night. Man, 25 years old. This is also exacerbated by the speciesist verbs used for cockroaches. Get rid of, exterminate, kill, destroy, used in commercials and the militant performatives of killing, as displayed in the Ride commercials. The discussion of the chemical warfare we wage against what we consider harmful is wonderfully summarized in Rachel Carson's 1962 book, Silent Spring. The issue she raises is that although we know how damaging the devastation caused by DDT has been, chemical pesticides are as widespread as ever. DDT, the abbreviated name of dichlor-diphenyl trichloretan, is an insecticide used in the 40s as a contact toxicant. First synthesized by a German chemist in 1874, its properties as an insecticide were discovered in 1939. It has been used in Romania since the 40s and banned since 1985. Carson offers a broader perspective on the ease with which we use certain chemicals that may pass FDI scrutiny and are depicted by the advertising industry as attractive and easy to use. However, over the years, they have proven very harmful because of the buildup of toxic materials in the body and the delayed effects, which are impossible to anticipate. Today's insecticides can deposit considerable insecticide residues throughout the home that are toxic or can provoke allergies. One study from 2019 showed that 85% of inner-city homes in the US test positive for cockroach allergens, and 60 to 93% of inner-city children with asthma from different populations are sensitized to insecticides. Also, in low-income households, because of the prices of pest control interventions, do-it-yourself products are the only option. Most of the products used are linked to substantial acute and chronic health effects, explosions and fires, and persistent environmental contamination indoors. Yet very few respondents care about this. Fear, or the need to get rid of cockroaches, outweighs concerns about the spray's toxicity. But it is not only the toxicity inside the house. These chemicals can pollute soil, water, and air, affecting biodiversity and causing long-term damage to ecosystems. In addition, insecticide overuse can lead to insecticide resistance in cockroach populations, requiring higher doses of new, more potent chemicals, worsening the negative cycle. In an effort to promote sustainability, it is crucial to explore safer and more sustainable alternatives to conventional insecticides. These may include non-chemical methods, such as biological control, which uses natural organisms to reduce cockroach populations, or methods to prevent infestation. How do we deal with cockroaches in our daily lives? Because of the cockroaches, we changed how we live in our apartment. It is ridiculous. We stay in the house at 19 degrees and sleep with socks on because I've seen that if the temperature is lower, they, the cockroaches, do not come. We had a friend over last night. That was the only reason our heater went from 19 to 24 degrees. After he left, the cockroaches came. I cannot believe I ended up living in a cold apartment, so they won't come. Also, I want to install air conditioning in the living room, but I fear the cockroaches might come to other rooms if we have more holes in the walls. Woman, 28 years old. In the war against cockroaches, people often resort to making compromises. Some choose to renovate their homes, while others adjust their living habits. In my case, I decided to move out of my apartment. I have no memories of cockroaches from childhood, although my mother tells me she struggled with them when I was young. However, 3 years ago, my boyfriend and I moved into our first rented apartment, where we unfortunately had to deal with a cockroach infestation. We tried various methods to eliminate them, including sprays and covering the vents, and even hired specialists, but nothing seemed to work. Eventually, we decided to move out of the apartment when, one evening, while napping on the living room couch, I woke up to find a cockroach on my face. The incident made me pay much more attention to other people's stories of having cockroaches in their apartments. Suddenly, it seemed like almost everyone had dealt with it at some point, an experience shared by many people in Bucharest. Cockroaches influence how we choose our housing, behave in our homes and relationships, manage our fear, etc. I often heard from estate agents that one of the most common questions is whether the flat or block of flats has any cockroach problems. One respondent's family friends took out a bank loan to buy a flat in Bucharest. After less than a year, they discovered cockroaches they can't get rid of. They'll be paying up to 50 years to fight these social enemies, their friend, a 25-year-old man, told me. Couple dynamics can also be affected by the presence of cockroaches. One respondent confessed that she has frequent arguments with her partner because he does not take the threat of cockroaches seriously, leaves unwashed dishes in the sink, and does not help her identify the source of the cockroaches. Cockroaches in some households involve humans and the rest of the animals in the house. It has been the hardest because I too am afraid of cockroaches and my boyfriend is scared of cockroaches. Until now, I have only lived with people who were not scared and whom I could rely on. I love my boyfriend, but it's hilarious. We rely on our cats. In many scenes, everyone sits on a kitchen stool with a slipper in hand and guides the cats to the bug to flush it out. A woman, 21 years old. Why study cockroaches as an anthropologist? I often get surprised looks when I mention that I'm studying cockroaches for my anthropology PhD. It's understandable, as it is considered a trivial topic unrelated to human experiences. In the meantime, some contemporary visual practices are meant to change how we perceive pests. Zohari, Zviet Koji Ostaje, Cockroaches, A World That Remains, The first exhibition on cockroaches in Croatia, held at the Croatian Natural History Museum, documented actual contemporary tendencies to turn cockroaches from pests into pets, as is particularly illustrated by the giant Madagascar hissing cockroaches. Another example is Catherine Chalmers, who has a website where she uploads artsy videos with cockroaches. For example, one with cockroaches roaming in the house and one with cockroaches crawling. The study of cockroaches offers insights into social dynamics, discourses, and political strategies. Different species of cockroaches, their ecosystems, and their interactions with humans and urban infrastructure co-evolve and mutually influence each other. Cockroaches are integral to broader ecosystems, and their survival and behavior depend not only on self-regulation, but also on interactions with their environment, including human activities such as hygiene practices, urbanization, and climate change. In urban settings, cockroaches interact with human infrastructures, building, sewage systems, waste management, and social cultural practices, which in turn shape both the behavior of cockroaches and how people perceive and manage these insects. This coevolution creates symbiotic systems where cockroaches adapt to urban environments and cities adjust infrastructure and practices in response to their presence. The creatures we call pests have accompanied us through a century in which housing and health officials, environmentalists, and pesticide advocates have promised modern, healthy living environments. Pests have violated such notions of modernity as long as we have underestimated their disobedience, their relationship to urban politics, and the niche created for them by social inequality. Being closely linked to waste in the cultural imaginary, urban animals that feed on garbage can be considered and treated as garbage. Although in theory we are equally exposed, pests tend to be abundant in the poorest and most crowded urban neighborhoods. However, pests are not just attached to physical conditions such as the presence of trash or basement in poor condition. They have also increased due to racial segregation, underfunded home inspections programs, and cultural stigma that has caused residents to try to hide infestations. Future research could investigate the social, political, economic, and cultural factors that influence why some species are of more significant concern than others.